Hey, Brook Scholars, welcome back to Remote Learning with me, Mr. Scott. And you've done it. You've made it to the end of the week. Congratulations. It's Friday. Not only is it Friday, bye-bye, April. We're in May. Happy May Day. May Day, May Day. May 1st. That's right, May 1st. Very exciting. So today, as you could probably already noticed, I have a poem for you. I just love poems. I love reading poems. We're going to read through this poem together. We're going to do a lot of work that we usually do, thinking about how to understand more about what the poet is saying. Today's poem, as you can see right here, it is My Shadow. And it's written by a very, very famous writer, Robert Louis Stevenson. Okay. Now, we'll talk about stanzas and lines and rhyme schemes and moods and things like that. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Right now, I just want to read this poem. Now, remember, poets write poems for these poems to be read aloud. So I'm begging you, please join with me. Everyone else in your family is going to think you're crazy because you're sitting looking at a screen reading poetry. But please read this poem out loud with me, okay? This is a beautiful poem. It's also a little bit funny too. Okay, let's go. Are you ready? All right, here we go. One, two, three. My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I can see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. For he sometimes shoots up taller, like an Indian rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little that there's none of him at all. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play, and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me. He's a coward, you can see. I'd think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. One morning very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. Very good. Now, you probably noticed this little one here after the word errant. Yes, that's the word errant, not errand. Errand. Oh, I'm just running out. I'm going to do a few errands. Errands and errant. They sound day. They sound very similar, but they are not the same word. They are spelled differently. Okay, they just happen to have similar sounds, so don't get confused. Let's find out what errant really means. Now, we do that, of course, by checking the footnote. We see the one right next to the important vocabulary word, and right down here at the bottom, where are you? Yeah, there it is. The word errant, my friend, it means complete. So if we take that idea and put it back into that line of poetry, but my lazy little shadow like an errant sleepyhead, like a complete sleepyhead, had stayed behind in bed. Okay, so let's break this thing down. What do we have here? Count with me. We will count the lines of poetry. Because remember, poems have lines, they don't have sentences. Okay, here we go. Let's count. One, two, three, four. First stanza, four lines. Keep counting. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we have 16 lines of poetry here in My Shadow. And of course, how many stanzas do we have? You got it. Four stanzas. Stanza 1, verse 2, verse 3, stanza 4. Stanza and verse, those words are interchangeable. They mean the same thing. Okay, now what about the rhyme scheme, the rhyming pattern? Did you hear words that rhymed as we read it out loud? Yeah, me too. Let's see what's happening here. So we look at the last word at the end of each of the lines and see which ones rhyme. Me is the first word. So, if I could write on here, I would put A. It's kind of hard to write because this is so small here on the screen. But anyway, long E sound there. And in the next word, we have C, me, C. Now, even though the me has a long E with one E and C has a long E sound with two E's, they both sound the same. So this would be a capital A, and then for line 2, also a capital A. Let's see if C and me rhyme with the next 2 lines in this stanza. Head, bed. Oh, well, I can tell you one thing. Head and bed do rhyme, but they don't rhyme with C and me. So that means we would have AA, and then we would switch to the next letter of the alphabet, and we'd say head and bed. So they would get BB. AA, BB. I'm thinking that's the rhyming pattern, but you know what? What do we know about a pattern? A pattern is not a pattern until it repeats. You got it. Okay, so let's check out the second stanza, see if we've got that AABB, 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 AABB kind of thing going on. Here we go. The next word is stanza 2, grow. Okay, grow and slow. Hey, O. Grow and slow. OW giving the long O sound here. Oh, grow, glow, slow, blow. There we go. So we've got OW in both of those words giving the long O pattern, and so that would be A, and then you get another A. Very similar so far to what we were seeing in paragraph. I'm sorry, paragraph. Whew. Stanza number 1. Let's see if we get some B's now. Ball and all. They are rhyming words, but they don't rhyme with grow and slow. So ball and all are rhyming words, so that would be B and B. I think our pattern just repeated. AABB, AABB. Now we know from lots of poems that we've read, Jack Prelutsky, Shel Silverstein, that sometimes poets play a little trick on the reader. They kind of break up the rhyming pattern towards the end to have us notice something important that's going on in the story. So let's see if that continues. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Rhyming pattern for the third stanza: play and weigh, see and me. Aha! So play and weigh rhyming. So we'd have AA and C and me would be BB. Last one, up and buttercup. Good, AA. Head and bed, BB. Well, I can say with quite a degree of certainty, my friends, that the rhyming pattern for My Shadow by Mr. Robert Louis Stevenson is an AABB rhyme scheme or rhyming pattern. Awesome. 4 stanzas, we talked about the lines. What about this poem? Let's think about what's going on here. What's happening? Well, you've got a young person. You've got someone who is a child. They are growing up, and it seems like they're trying to make sense of their world around them, and they've noticed that they have a shadow. But I think the narrator here, the young person, I think they're a little bit confused about how shadows work. I think they've now noticed the shadow, and they've noticed different things about the shadow, that it can change size. It can be really, really big. It can be really, really small. Yeah, I think he gets a little bit confused. One of the interesting things I thought was he's a coward. He's a coward. And did you get this line of poetry was kind of hard to understand for me. It says, I'd think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. So Nursey. So we have someone, a family member or a friend or someone that the family pays to take care of this young person, this child, the narrator. And I'd think shame to stick to Nursey. So thinking that if you are a shy person or if you are feeling less than confident, that you would you'd kind of hide behind um, you know, someone's legs, a parent or an adult. So Nursey. So yeah, this young person, this narrator is very confused about shadow that he casts when the sun is shining. I don't think he realizes that it's the sun that's shining on him that causes the shadow on the ground. He also thinks not only that his shadow is a coward, but he thinks that the shadow is very lazy. The important bit down here is before the sun was up. So, of course, if the sun isn't shining in the sky, casting the light down onto the boy, he will cast no shadow. There will be no shadow on the ground. So he thinks that his shadow is lazy as well as being a coward. So very, very cute poem we've got here. What other information do we learn about this person? Jump before me when I jump into bed. Thinks that the shadow's kind of funny. And that is about it. Very good. So I would say this is a very light-hearted, charming, silly, funny poem about a young person who's trying to understand their shadow. Has lots of different opinions about the shadow. Very good, my friends. Okay, well, thank you so much for reading that with me. Your job, as always, is to grab your pencil and your paper, write down the multiple choice answers, and of course, write down the short answer questions, answers to the questions, and then take a picture and put it up there on Seesaw for your teachers to admire. Behold the wonder and specter that is your work. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful start to May and have a great weekend with your family. I will look forward to seeing all of your work up there on Seesaw. From me, Mr. Scott, the Ultimate Champion, I will see you on Monday, my friends.